Dang,
Yeah.
I didn't know HX could do that.
Yeah.
Now I might be thinking I need to get an HX. What's up, everybody? Today we have one of my good friends, Francesca, here with us. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Fran is a great guitar player and a great worship leader. She's also a bassist and a growing drummer.
I'll hit stuff.
So one of the things that Fran does really well is she has an amazing pedal board. I love this setup, and she's also an HX user. I am not an HX user.
Yeah.
I want to learn from you, Fran. So this video is really out of selfishness.
Sure.
And I figured we'll bring YouTube along with me. So
Yeah, let's do it. I've been using the HX Stomp for probably almost 2 years now. Yeah, and haven't gone back. I sold a ton of pedals to buy it because I had like that classic big board. I just stumbled upon it. I saw other people using it, and I was like, I'm gonna try it out.
yeah. What were you using before the HX?
So I was using the Strymon Iridium.
Okay.
Not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
That was just for like amp and cab sims.
Yeah.
And I just love like the whole digital thing. I haven't used a real amp in a while just because it's a lot more convenient, especially as like a traveling and gigging musician.
Yeah. I feel like everybody goes through an Iridium phase. I know
when it came out, it did.
I
Yeah.
went through my Iridium phase, and since then have moved on to greener pastures. There's just a lot of options now that there weren't when the Iridium came out.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly a trailblazer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what all do you use the HX for?
Yeah, I mean, I use it for basically anything that isn't a drive pedal because all of my drives are like analog drives, and then I have the Big Sky, but occasionally when I need something a little heavier, I'll run reverb from the Stomp into the Big Sky.
Okay.
But outside of that, it holds my main amp and cab sims IRs for that. I also use it for any modulation, delay, and that could be like rotaries, choruses, vibrato, tremolo. Sometimes I'll comp if I play slide or need anything with a little extra dynamic. But yeah, that's what I use it for. I also use the effects loop that's built into the Stomp.
Really? Yeah. What do you have in the effects loop?
Basically, I'll run my modulation and wet effects after my amps, or after my amp and my IR. So in that, really the only thing that exists in the effects loop is the Big Sky. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll run all of my drives and all the stuff that comes before it into the Stomp.
Okay.
Then out of the Stomp, I'll send stereo to the Big Sky.
Okay.
Send back stereo out of the Big Sky into the Stomp, and then I can place that block essentially, which is I'm able to move around the Big Sky wherever I want in my signal chain. So
it's a stereo effects loop.
Dang, yeah.
I didn't know HX could do that.
Yeah.
Now I might be thinking I need to get an HX.
It's really nice because actually I found out when we were doing the live album recording. So everyone was like, Fran, your right side is louder than your left.
Okay.
I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So after looking into it more, I realized that I was sending with just a TS cable from the send jack of the Stomp. I was just sending into one side of the Big Sky.
Oh.
Like I wasn't even sending left and right. I was just sending right.
So the Big Sky was receiving a mono signal into it, but outputting a stereo wet signal, essentially. But
and
that
so
wouldn't
there's
be equal.
Right, and especially when I use like heavier reverbs, you can really tell that one side is actually clipping now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a good thing to be aware of if you're going to run it stereo.
It was super nice because then I realized, like, I went back, I watched a couple of videos and learned that there's this thing called a Y cable.
Yeah.
And that solved everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about signal flow already. Let's just walk through your signal path from start to finish and that's probably going to start with wireless.
It starts with the guitar.
Which is hidden?
Yes, it is. It is hidden. So I use the Shure GLX 16 transmitter, which that transmitter is actually under my board.
Okay.
And then it'll go, because obviously we got not a lot of real estate.
No, it's a very compact board.
Very, very compact. I'm a small person, so I don't like, and it's true. Like I had like a 24 by 12.
Yeah. And
filling that up and like needing to fill it up because there's so much space, I was like, this is really heavy.
Yeah.
So I put that thing underneath that transmitter, and out of that transmitter, it'll go into my tuner, which is the Korg Pitchblack. Out of that, I'll go into the mini Dunlop volume pedal.
Yep.
Been around forever.
Great pedal.
It's good old reliable. And then out of that, I'll go into my first drive, which is the Saturn 6. Really like light to medium gain, but I actually use it more as like a preamp.
Gotcha.
To just give my guitar a little more juice, especially when I use like my single coil guitar, like which is the PRS Silver Sky. That one needs a little more oomph here and there. So I use that to kind of make gain adjustments.
Gotcha.
So that when it gets to the Stomp, everything's about the same if I use 2 guitars in 1 gig. Out of that, I'll go into my Kilt, which is my main overdrive sound. Both the Saturn and this is the Hamstead Comet, which I just use to boost that signal of the Kilt and that sound. They're mostly transparent, or at least that's how I run it. If I need a little more clarity when I get into the high gain territory, I'll adjust the treble on the Comet.
Nice.
But and then specifically for the Kilt, if I need like a really wiry overdrive, I have the red remote, so that's the regular side of the Kilt, and then I will switch that on. And so I have 4 drives at my feet, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is super nice and super versatile. Out of that, it'll go straight into the HX Stomp, all still mono. And then out of the Stomp, it'll split into dual mono, basically stereo. I'll send back stereo and output stereo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it.
You've got a lot going on in a small amount of space.
Yeah.
I see the white pedal that you have there. Is that running via MIDI or is it just TS cables?
So they're just...
How's that working?
It's a TRS cable. So both of these sides, one side controls my Stomp and the other side controls the Big Sky. So basically, I preset every single song week by week just because some songs have different needs, and I also like to already have the tempo put in for each song. And we can get into that because there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
But basically this side will control the Stomp. It'll go bank up, bank down, nothing crazy. Same thing on this side, bank up, and that can go bank down.
Okay, so it's just its own TRS cable to each of those, but and out of the same box.
Right.
Who makes that?
This one is made by Simple Switch Effects.
Simple Switch.
Super, and it was really, really great price for 2 of these like dual latching foot switches in 1 enclosure.
Yeah.
And it does wonders.
Before we have you play, tell me about the amps that you're using.
So I only use 1 amp block and 1 IR block per patch because of space. I want to maximize how much DSP I use. Okay. And even then, with this specific IR block, this is actually the, I want to say, it's the 2048 sample. So it's just a lot more clarity, and it's just, higher quality, if you will. And so depending on what guitar I use, my settings and blocks will change, but throughout sets, same amp, same cab, same sim, I guess, is really what it is. I use a Vox AC30.
Okay.
And initially, I was a Vox hater. Everyone's like, Fender this, Fender that, deluxe reverb this.
Yeah.
And as a Strat player, like, that really helped a lot because there was, like, that mid knob where I could really identify, I need punch right here.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, I stopped playing a Strat. I bought a Fender Jag with humbuckers.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need clarity. It's a little too warm, and so I switched to the Vox, which gave me that perfect balance between bass and treble. And then I use a variety of different cabs. I'll use the blues sometimes, but with this guitar specifically, I like the 12-inch greenbacks.
Okay.
mic'd with a 545.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say you're more often swapping out the IR to match the guitar and the needs of the set?
Yeah. I mean, I'll occasionally experiment. Like, sometimes I'll use, like, a Marshall Plexi.
Yeah.
But really just I'll change the cab depending on the set, depending on what the songs need.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll have to change settings on the amp to kind of accommodate for where the guitar sits tonally.
Yeah. I wouldn't have thought to switch out IRs as its own block, but again, these are things I'm learning about.
And there's so much you could do in here too. Like, obviously, like, they output a ton, and so I have to adjust levels and make sure I'm not digitally clipping, which is something that I learned doing that whole live recording. It's like, this isn't like organic drive clipping. It's like, ugh.
You get the ick clip.
the ick kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, let's hear just your amp by itself.
A little bit of dirt on my clean.
Yeah.
So
Cleanish.
Yeah. Clean-ish.
Yeah.
But I like to play pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So having that initial like gain stage when it's already clipping really helps with dynamics.
Yeah.
So I can like dig in or like really lean back.
Let's hear some of your drives.
Sure.
Maybe just walk us through a couple different settings.
Through like a.
Yeah. So, and that's the Kilt and the Saturn's on as well, right?
Yep.
The Saturn 6.
Saturn, honestly, like, I run that thing always on 99% of the time.
Yeah. I hear you. That's exactly what I do with my Lightspeed.
Yeah.
It's like, it's
super convenient. I don't know why.
It's nice to have, like, that instant tweakability of, like, my bass sound, my core sound, I should say, is just, like, ready to rock. And I can make little adjustments depending on what I
honestly, like, I thought for the longest time I was doing something wrong because I had something that was always on.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
It depends on who you ask.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
It depends on who you ask. But, like, I think especially when you're in the direct guitar signal thing, people will say that, like, artificial, like, clipping and amp distortion from a digital unit is like the same thing, but I can't help but feel like a pedal does that better. And so, like, having that
I agree.
first stage, at least to, like, kind of warm up your signal.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Absolutely.
Like, whether it's actually doing something sound wise or not, it makes me feel better.
It makes me feel better, and it makes me
having that tweakability is like really nice to immediately be able to do that and not have to, like, get into the menu dieting stuff if you don't want to. How about some big sky sounds?
Some big sky stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Let's get into that. If you're not listening to this with headphones, you need to.
I know. Getting it to be in stereo, like, was a game changer. Because I was like, model this, model that, I don't care.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, wow, this is a different ballgame.
Yeah. All right, how about some of the sounds from the HX?
Yeah, so on the HX, I have, basically, We Are Compass Worship. Wrote a song called Spirit Come. And specifically on that song, I just... My goal was just to create ambience, not play anything specific to, like, for a lead line or anything, just more to support the melody that already exists and kind of lay out and let everyone else do their thing.
Yeah.
And just create, like, a little pad underneath.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was like, okay, let's do something super heavy Still with like, I can hear the chord and I know what's going on and like where I'm playing it. Mm-hmm. But something that's just,
Is this going to be the shimmer sound?
Yeah.
Okay, so like legit, you do the shimmer sound better than anybody else does the shimmer sound, so I'm looking forward to this.
Listen, I took a page out of Hislop's book, and the way that
David Hislop, if
David
you're not
Hislop,
familiar, but yes.
Amazing guitarist, which actually I do use some of his IRs.
Oh, okay.
Should say.
Good to
must
know.
say.
Yeah.
So in the Stomp, there's this thing called the octo. It's just called octo.
Octo.
Nothing else.
Yep.
Not octopus, not octagon. Just octo. So I actually have it before my amp, which is like a pretty standard practice if you're running effects into an amp. Then I have my amp, and it amplifies that signal. It goes into my HX Stomp. Or sorry, this is not the HX Stomp. My Big Sky.
Yep.
I had a reverb, I just don't have it pulled up right now, but I have one specifically for Spirit Come, in addition to the Octaverb and the cloud and ambient verbs on the Stomp. Which actually, I believe this is called Glitz. I just renamed them. These are basically the same engine in stereo form, and their settings are changed based off of what I need them for. So obviously ambient has a heavier decay. The mix is lower, but that's because there's so much running into it already. Because that's the last block that it sees before it hits the PA. Like that, like... That extra layer just really does it. And I'm pretty sure it functions, like that octaverb functions as like a pog of sorts.
Yeah. Look, this is interesting because like that is like, I think doing the shimmer thing, but where the shimmer thing always feels like it falls short is the shimmer takes the place of the reverb. And you really kind of need that reverb after the shimmer. So like if you had a shimmer, a pedal that did a shimmer verb and then another reverb after it, I feel like that would be a stronger sound.
Absolutely,
than what
absolutely.
most people use it for.
Because I think like you're saying, like it just really lacks like that body, and it's just all shimmer and no like verb.
Yeah.
But honestly, like with the combination of stuff from the Big Sky and then just honestly experimenting with settings really makes a difference. Because for the octaverb, there's like an intensity feature, which I guess it affects how aggressive the shimmer is and how much you can hear.
Yeah.
Then like the mix, and you can cut the highs, which I feel like sometimes it can be kind of shrill.
Yeah.
Cut them out a little bit, and then same thing over here. And it makes it a little warmer, a little more approachable.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can you show us that one more time? Just give it a little more of that. That's a great sound.
It's real nice.
Okay, so how long have you been playing guitar?
Man, I just hit 5 years in May.
Hey, nice.
Yeah.
What initially got you into guitar? And is guitar your first instrument?
Yeah, it's not my first instrument.
Okay.
My first instrument was the violin, which is a pretty like, I don't know, it's either band or orchestra when you grow up. And I was an orchestra kid, not a band kid. So it kind of got to a point where I didn't really love playing the violin. And honestly, like I really just wanted to be on the worship team and do something, but I'm like, no one wants you to play violin. And I'm like,
not everyone.
Not everyone, but it's just not like an instrument that everyone sees week to week.
Sure.
Is more the deal.
We bring them out for Christmas and for
stuff.
Easter, maybe Mother's Day.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, those sorts of things.
I love it. But yeah, there's that. I just wanted to play acoustic.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, I had an acoustic guitar. I was like, I'm gonna audition. I made it, but the youth worship leader at the time, he was like, hey, you play acoustic, but can you bring your electric? And I was like, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't really know how to play this thing. But yeah, auditioned with it and never played acoustic for the first 4 months that I was on the team.
Yeah.
Like, it was just trial by fire, play the electric, navigate it. And also, there's these things called pedals.
Oh,
I was like, what is that?
Yeah. It's funny because you went from violin, which is like...
Oh, it's like over here.
Over there, like not immediately helpful in a weekly sort of setting at church. And then you went to acoustic, which is more helpful.
Right.
But then you just...
They were like,
skyrocketed
no, like,
past those like to the most helpful thing.
Yep.
We need 2 electrics every week.
Yep.
So there you go.
And it was just like, it was in students, and it was like a great place to like learn and not like make mistakes, but just like, you know, be free to experiment.
Yeah. Kind of find your sound and
kind of figure things
figure
out.
What pedals do, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you also play bass.
I do play bass.
And you use HX
I do.
For bass as well.
Absolutely.
This is now a dual purpose board.
It is a dual purpose board. I'll sometimes, if I really just need like extra signal, I'll turn on the Saturn, but otherwise I don't use any of this stuff other than the tuner and the volume pedal. Yeah. This is my main patch / rig for my bass sounds. I have a comp, 2 of them actually. And then I run my signal like in parallel. So I have a clean signal, and then I have a dirty one that I mix in.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And do you ever turn that on and off, or is that like just baked into like your core sound?
It's kind of baked in. I mean, that dirty side is just like, it's like pedals that are just kind of jerry-rigged into a parallel signal. Yeah. And I'll turn them on and off, but otherwise, I already run my bass pretty dirty. Yeah. Right out of the gate. Yeah. And it's sick.
The clean sound.
The clean sound.
Clean-ish sound.
I like it, you know, nice and heavy and really like gritty.
Yeah.
And I like how thick it sounds.
Helps you poke out in a mix so well. So when you're doing some more high up filler stuff, like that stuff.
It pops and I'm like, wow, I'm like doing like a little licky here, licky there.
And it's not like immediately hidden under everything else.
And everyone's like, whoa. Yeah. Totally.
Which is great.
It's super fun. And then
what's at the end of the chain then? Anything else?
So yeah, so I have a couple dirt pedals. One of them's like a rat style. And then this one's just like based off of the dark glass. Cool. Preamp. Nice. There's also I use a chorus.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, keep things a little funky.
You're braver than
fresh.
Braver than I.
I don't use it that often, but honestly, like a lot of the really upbeat, youth-oriented songs have been kind of crazy.
Kind of going that way?
Yeah, kind of going that way.
Okay.
And I think it just gives it a little extra layer, something a little fun.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah. Then I have a spring reverb that I use, like, I'll turn my tone knob down, turn the volume down when I'm playing a lot lighter. I'll just use that so it's not super heavy, like on the attack, I guess. Yeah. I kind of use it to help soften that in the quieter parts of the song. Cool. And yeah. That's not.
I didn't plan for this, so putting you on the spot, and you didn't bring your bass, but I have my Jag here. Yeah. Would you mind demoing it a little bit? So that
absolutely.
The folks at home can hear it? Let me grab
Let's
it
do
for
it.
you.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I love this thing.
Love
it. Oh my gosh.
It's a great sound.
It is.
You said that was a rat, right?
That's a rat, yeah.
Yeah.
That one's a rat.
Love a rat. So what advice would you have for somebody who's just now getting a stomp or maybe considering a stomp? Yeah. What kind of advice would you give those folks?
Well, you know, I understand like the HX Stomp is an investment, and I honestly think that if you're the type of person that wants something compact, like you could even do like a really small like pedal train nano. Sure. It'll serve you real well. Especially if you have like the extra buttons, like how I do, switching up and down. And to that too, there's just so many things it could do. It's super versatile to whatever need you have. It comes to you shipped using the third button as a tap tempo. Okay. So for time-based effects, you could just tap it in, right? But I preset every song, so I set the tempo for every song. So I can have that free foot switch to use as a basically like a pedal, like a real pedal, on, off, bypass, whatever. Another thing too, like if you're hesitant or like don't really know where to start and you have a stomp, is using the free presets that are just widely available online. Especially if you're a worship guitar player or worship bassist even. Like there are tons of people coming out with presets, and it doesn't mean you have to use them forever, but if you're just confused, how do I patch things? How do I want my signal chain to look? They're a very, very great resource to use. And a great starting point too. It's just, I think, one of the best pedals on the market for that. Yeah.
You certainly get a lot for your investment with the HX.
Absolutely.
Do you use more on the pedal editing and whatnot, or are you mostly editing within the software?
So sometimes it's way faster to do it on the pedal. For example, in a scenario where, okay, there's this new song, never played it before, so I don't have a patch for it. Right. I usually will just find a song that's tonally similar, literally just copy that patch and paste it into a new bank.
Gotcha.
And then I'll adjust it from there, like tempo, different tone settings, whatever modulation it needs, what kind of delay I'm using. And then that's how I'll do that. Because sometimes the software kind of buffers and it just takes a little longer, whereas like if I do it on board, it's instant.
What's a scenario that you would rather edit on your Mac than using the onboard controls?
Honestly, like if I'm gonna sit down for the first time looking at this set list, I would rather just look at my Mac, so I'm not like doing this the whole time. Plus, I also use the Nixie software for the Big Sky, so I can just like do this and never have to bend. Because I rarely change like the tone and like the settings on my drives, because most of that is fixed by just changing the amp.
Yeah. So you, for the most part, would edit a song on the pedal, and then you're editing a set list on your computer.
Yeah, because then I can drag things in and out, whereas like it's kind of hard to drag stuff on a Big Sky, more specifically.
The Big Sky.
Yeah.
As far as players that you look up to, players that inspire you, and people that you draw, you know, so you talked about David Hislop already.
Yeah.
Being like somebody who you get some sounds from. Are there any other players that jump out?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, when I first started playing guitar, so like I played a Strat, right? And who played a Strat? John Mayer.
Of course.
John Mayer played a Strat, and I quickly found that specific Strat, like specifically the pickups that were in it, not great for worship.
Your Strat.
My Strat, yeah. It was like it was based off of like a 60s style pickup set.
Okay.
It was really, and like, I mean, the whole Strat
So
itself.
low output.
Very low output, very.
A lot of.
Chimey.
Yeah, chimey for days.
Yeah, and that fifth position.
The bridge position.
The bridge, yeah, didn't have a dedicated tone knob, and it drove me nuts.
Sure.
Because it's just so shrill.
Yeah.
And I personally could never tame it. Kudos to those who can.
Yeah.
I'm just not built like that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
I get it. I'm in the same boat.
But yeah, that's why I like the Silver Sky.
Yeah.
Which John Mayer's guitar.
Sure.
But it actually has a tone knob.
Yeah.
And you can adjust it, which is super nice.
Very usable bridge sound.
So nice.
Which is
I love that
great.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's someone that I was like, man, I love this guy. And I love the way he plays guitar. My cousin was a really big influence on that too.
Cool.
He plays guitar out in California. He used to gig a lot and stuff like that. And I actually can remember I like look up to him like, man, I wish I was that cool that I could play like you. Yeah. And that's honestly kind of why I started playing guitar over like the violin. Yeah. I was like, man, I wish I could do that. And he was, man, what a great guitar player. Super awesome.
Anybody else as far as sounds?
Sounds like, yeah, Hislop's a great one for worship sounds, and he's someone I've like learned a lot from. Just specifically with the HX Stomp. He's got like a whole thing going on there.
And he's also a Kilt user, right?
He is a Kilt user.
Yeah,
he has
yeah.
2, I believe, right? Like,
Double Kilts.
Double
Yeah.
Kilts, original, and then the V2, which is
Yeah.
that. Yeah, him and then E. Edwards from Elevation.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very excellent.
Great
excellent
sounds.
player. Great MD as well.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Well, Fran, thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming on the channel.
Thanks
Appreciate
for having
you.
me.
If people want to follow you, where can they do that?
Yeah, I just use Instagram. I don't use anything else. And that's at Francesca.Caitlyn. It'll be somewhere.
I'll link that in the description. So if you have any questions, any comments about the board, please hit us up in the comment section. And as always, keep getting better.
Heck yeah.